Hello, welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle MD. I am your host, Dr. Angela, and this is episode number 11. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the importance of meeting your needs. I'm also going to explain to you why this is where I begin with all of my clients before we get into the details of nutrition and exercise and why that makes sense. Make sure also that you don't forget to leave a review, follow my podcast. You can also follow me on social media. My main social media outlet is Instagram, and my handle is Angela Lifestyle MD, and looking forward to seeing some of your wonderful comments, feedback, and input in any of those places. All right, for now, let's get into it. Okay, so there are some very fundamental things that need to be met or done before any person can reach their full potential as a human being, let alone in order to be healthy and fit. Health and fitness, I consider higher order needs that cannot be achieved until someone's very basic needs are met first. So the clients that I work with, more or less, all of their basic needs are already being met. That's a prerequisite. Failing to meet any of your needs will leave you feeling depleted. So when you're lacking in your physiologic, your security, your social needs, you're going to lack the safety, security, the comfort to be able to move into those higher level areas. And even when your higher level needs are not being met, again, you're still going to feel depleted or lacking in something. So there are 4 things I'm going to discuss today. First is understanding what your basic needs are so that you can ensure that those are being met. And that's really 3 areas, but I'm lumping it all into one topic. The second is know your values. The third is know what makes you tick. And the final point is to fill your cup. When it comes to basic or foundational needs, or what you can also call the lower level needs, I like to refer to them as, am I comfortable? Am I safe? And do I feel loved or like I belong? These can also be referred to as physiologic needs, safety and security, and love and belonging, kind of the same thing. So if you are feeling comfortable or your physiologic needs are being met, that means that you have food, air, I should say clean air, clean water, shelter, clothing, warmth, some place to sleep, and your general health is good. You cannot meet any needs at all. Hard stop if your physiologic needs are not fulfilled first. And this is like your very most basic instinctual needs. And this is kind of a given. Everyone should understand that very well. The next part of this is safety and security. These needs are associated with feeling safe and secure in both your life and your environment. These are pretty obvious when they're not being met because it will lead to feelings of fear and anxiety. It is akin to the desire to also have order, predictability, and control. When you lack a sense of order and predictability in your environment, you're always feeling like the next ball is going to drop. And I'll tell you, even though I more or less expect my clients to have these basic needs being met, I'll say that safety and security is a little bit more nuanced. For a lot of the people that I talk with, they have financial security. They live in a safe neighborhood and home. They have social stability. They're more or less free from fear. Their general health is okay, but there may be some things in their life that are taking away from their sense of control or their lack of order. And in fact, maybe there's been things in their childhood that's created this need to always control things excessively. And so that kind of all falls into this safety and security category. So even though it's a basic needs, there's really, in my opinion, 2 parts of this. Your very most basic safety and security, and then there's like this higher level of safety and security that comes once those real basic parts are being met. And finally, it's the need to feel loved and have a sense of belonging. Love includes romantic relationships, but also includes connections with family, friends, neighbors. You should also have a sense of feeling like you belong to a social group. You should feel loved and feel that you have love towards other people. Lack of this can lead to feelings of loneliness and depression. Now, we saw a lot of this during the pandemic because people were socially isolated. And you can see why people being socially isolated created a lot of problems, both socially and health-wise, because it is a very basic need to feel feel a sense of love and belonging. And when that's absent, it's hard to fulfill your other higher level needs. So I'm going to tell you a brief story that kind of illustrates this. I had a potential client reach out to me about coaching, and she'd seen my content on social media. She knows me personally and was curious to know if I could help her. Now, she's not a part of my target audience, which is predominantly, women doctors, women professionals, but I'm open to considering anyone as long as you're a good fit for my program. And the key is that you have to be a good fit. And this particular person, her basic needs are not being met. And I know this for a fact. And just for that reason alone, she would not be a good candidate for my program. Like, when your energy is being focused toward fulfilling deficits in your physical, your safety, or your love needs, you can't focus on the areas of fitness and health. And let me be clear, perfection isn't necessary in order to be able to move on from physiologic safety and love. So some basic things that I know this particular person struggles with is financial security, and also perhaps a sense of belonging, and the need to fulfill financial needs and to pay certain bills, or to be able to spend money on the things that she desires, is frequently at the top of mind. So it's very difficult to put energy into eating healthy and into getting regular exercise if you're always striving to fulfill that need. I mean, it's just a basic fundamental necessity of life. And then same goes for feeling a sense of love and belonging. If that's lacking, it's just very difficult to pour energy into doing things that are good for yourself. It may seem counterintuitive, but it's the reality of the way our mind operates. Though she may be willing to pay to be coached by me and be a part of my program, I would not knowingly accept her as a client and enroll her in my program, realizing that there's other things that she needs to work on first. I can't help her until she's at that point of feeling secure, a point of feeling a sense of safety and love and belonging. So anyway, kind of a simple illustration of that. All right, so the second thing you need to think about is, what are your values? So once when I meet with someone or someone's interested in joining my program, once they've signed up, I ask people to do a values inventory. There's a few different ways to go about this, but one of the very basic things I encourage people to do is to tell me what your top 3 values are. And some people, that's intuitive. They know it right away because they think about it all the time. But for a lot of people, they haven't really thought about it or put it down on paper. Then after someone's come up with their values, I also ask them to think about their non-negotiables. Again, this is something that a lot of people may not have completely thought through or put it down on paper. So I've got 2 clients right now, and my most recent client, we were talking about this, and she came up with her values. She came up with her non-negotiables, and it was interesting as we were talking about her non-negotiables, she realized that one of the things that she had listed as a non-negotiable, it actually may not be a non-negotiable. And let me clarify, I don't want to give too much information, but basically she had listed something and realized that she was not in alignment with that in her own personal actions. So then she thought, well, can it really be a non-negotiable if that's not how I behave, right? So that was an interesting realization, and it wasn't, again, that's not my intent, but it was kind of like a aha moment for her. Now, I don't necessarily think that's holding her back from achieving her fitness goals, but it certainly is something worth thinking about. So you're probably asking, what does knowing my values and my non-negotiables have anything to do with whether or not I'm able to achieve my health and fitness goals? Well, it has everything to do with it. So once you know what's important to you, what your values are and what your non-negotiables are, you have to then make sure that you are putting your energy into the things that are important to you. In other words, that you are not putting your energy into things that you do not value or that are not of high importance to you. Because when you are doing that, you are depleting yourself. Again, you're going to feel a sense of deprivation. So I'll give you some examples of values. So for me, there are 3 values that I've had. They've been fairly consistent for like a decade or more. I will often revisit that and kind of reshuffle them. But in the top 3 is health, family, and spirituality. I also add there's a 4th one in there, which is expertise. So I kind of like shuffle those around from time to time. But I would probably say expertise probably is in the 4th spot now pretty securely. Oh, so let me take a step back. Non-negotiables. I have one really big non-negotiable, and that is lack of integrity. It's very important to me to always operate in integrity, and I expect other people to act in integrity. And I think truth and honesty could be separated part of that. I will always be truthful, and I expect the same of other people. So how does this come into play? Before I was married, before I had children, before I had my son, it was easier for me to put a lot of energy into that value of expertise, and still value health health and still value fitness and family, spirituality, those things came much more easily. I could dedicate time to exercising and making my food and still pursue knowledge and, my pursuit of knowledge and becoming an expert in my field and areas of interest. Fast forward when full-time career as a physician and also a mother of a young child, in addition to being a step parent of 2 and a wife, there's more conflict between these values. I found myself up until recently, over the last several years, finding myself it was very imbalanced. I was putting more energy into the expertise part. In other words, I was pouring more into my work unknowingly, giving more of my energy to that. And now I guess I have to be clear that work is not the same as expertise. But I aligned it that way probably definitely in my actions. So I would go to the office, I would come home, and I would work late, long hours. My son came to associate me with sitting in front of a computer even when I was at home. So I was always working and not putting energy into my family. And finding time to exercise, I would still do it, but it would, be kind of like squeezed in, or it would be like the thing I would do after I got this work done. And over time, that started taking a very significant toll on me. I value my family. I value my health and well-being, but I was not behaving that way. I was valuing my work more, right? Because that's where I was putting my time and energy. So even though that might not have been my value, that's what my time would tell you. If you were to look at my life from the outside in, you would think, well, I must really highly value my work because wow, I'm putting a whole lot of time into that and not giving very much time to my son, as an example. And I didn't realize it then, but I wasn't filling my cup. I wasn't putting my time and energy into the things that mattered the most to me. So I start off with clients making sure that first of all, they know what their values are. In other words, what's important to them, and then make sure that they are aligning their choices and spending their time on those things that are of value to them. And if they aren't, that's where we get into the next part of it. Another thing I ask people to think about is what makes you tick. And that's the third point. So understanding what makes you tick is very similar to understanding your values. So these are the things that help you to feel like you are personally being valued, or that you have a sense of accomplish, that you feel purposeful, that you are that you have a high sense of self, that you feel motivated. These are the things that are really going to drive you. So specific questions that you can ask yourself is, what do I want to be known for? What is my purpose? And that's a big question. Another way to think about it is, what makes me feel purposeful? And then I ask people to think more specifically, how do you feel accomplished, or what will make you feel accomplished in areas of health, fitness, your profession, your career, with family and personal relationships, and with your faith and your spirituality. So with health, that refers to things like sleep, nutrition, stress management, management of chronic diseases, or any health issues that you may be struggling with. Fitness refers specifically to strength and endurance, your physical appearance, whether or not you're trying to train for some sort of competition, whether it's bodybuilding, marathon, triathlons, 5Ks, what have you. Profession and career, family, personal relationships, and faith and spirituality, a little bit more self-explanatory. The main focus of my program ultimately is to help you accomplish your goals in health and fitness. But it's also important that if you are really feeling deficient in one of those other 3 areas, one of those other 3 is usually a point of serious contention for my clients. So whether it's profession and career, family, personal relationships, faith and spirituality, then if you're feeling a void in those areas, it's going to be hard for you to, again, put energy into things like health and fitness, because health and fitness are important. But as I've worked with people, I realize it may be important, but if you're not, again, doing well in these other areas, it's really hard for you to make that a priority. And it's hard for people to, especially women, to see the connection between doing well in their health and fitness and how that's going to flow over into their ability to succeed and meet their goals around their profession, their career, their family, and even their spirituality and their faith. So I try to draw that connection or make those connections for people, or help them to make those connections. So once you've answered these questions for yourself, the next step is to get to the work of removing barriers that are preventing you from achieving those. So let me give you a little story first about myself, again, where I really kind of was struggling, maybe profession and career, and also personal relationships. And I think that during the pandemic, one of the areas that was really a point of struggle is my husband and I were at odds quite a bit. He was working from home, like a lot of people that normally wouldn't work from home. home, and I'm at home 2 out of the 5 days of the week. And in fact, during the pandemic, I was home a lot more often because our clinic's schedule and everything changed because everything was in flux. So we were in the same space a lot. We don't agree on everything. And so there were just a lot more opportunities for us to be contentious with each other. And there was a lot more tension. Like, we have a wonderful relationship, but that was not fun. And I allowed that tension to really take a hold and take a grip on my health. And I didn't realize that was one of the main contributing factors to why I was mentally struggling and physically struggling, is because there was a lot of tension in relationship with my spouse. So it took a little bit of reflection and kind of working through that together for us to figure out that was a source of trouble for my health. You know, when you think about relationships, you don't think about the impact of that tension and that relationship's going to have on your health. But the stress, I mean, that was like stress on top of the stress that I was already dealing with being a physician during the pandemic. So you can only imagine, like, maybe under any other circumstances, it might not have been a big deal. But at that time, there was already so much stress. I mean, not even mention just like being as a physician, just the climate, everything was just so stressful around us, outside of our home, just in the world. And then to have that in our safe space, in the place where I should be able to be relaxed and feel comfort, I wasn't feeling that because there was always this tension. And so in that moment, and because of that, that's why it was so profound. And that's the only thing that I had any control over, right? I can't control the pandemic. I can't control what's happening in the world, but we can control what's happening in our relationship. So getting a hold, or to kind of like get that under control and to work through that was one of the most beneficial things that we could have not only done for our relationship, but also that I could have done for my health, making that a priority. I had just done a bodybuilding competition. I won the bodybuilding competition, but my health completely took a left turn, and I was just in the worst state of my health than I've probably been in my entire life. And a lot of it came probably to the fact that I had nothing else to focus on, that all of my energy and attention, now that the competition was over and I wasn't training, that I didn't have a carrot, in front of me, I had no choice but to direct my attention to, the elephant in the room, the stress in our relationship. So I'm happy to say that that's not an issue anymore, but it was definitely something that it weighed on me in ways I didn't realize. So if you've got something going on, either in your personal life, if you're feeling disconnected from your faith, your spirituality, or your career, or your profession is just not in alignment with your purpose, you're feeling depleted, it's going to be hard for your body's just not going to have enough reserve to put into being healthy and put into being fit. You can try, but you're going to find it very difficult. And in fact, you may cause yourself harm along the way. All right, before I get on to my final point, I want to take a moment to remind you that I have a fit lifestyle coaching program for women physicians and for women professionals. I work with you one-on-one to help you focus on a lot of things that we're talking about today in order to align yourself with being your most fit self indefinitely. So if that's something that you're interested in, you want to find out more about it, you can email me at angelalifestylemd@gmail.com. You can also follow me on social media, Angela Lifestyle MD. So the fourth and final point is that you need to fill your cup. Now that you know what your values are, or you've laid them out, and you know what makes you tick, and you even know the things that you are doing or not doing that are in alignment with your values, and the things that you are not doing to meet your needs around motivation. So if you're not succeeding in your health and fitness goals, what are the things that you're not doing or accomplishing there? What are the things that you're not accomplishing or feeling accomplished about around your career or your relationships or your spirituality? So if you're lacking a sense of accomplishment around any of these other domains, you've identified that. Now we have to get to the action of doing something about it. I'm just going to lay the groundwork for us to talk about that next time. Once you've addressed all these things, answer these questions for yourself, you need to first get out of your own way. And that's where we talk about thoughts, actions, beliefs, which are also known as mindset. And the next thing you need to do is get everyone and everything else out of your way. So you need to design your lifestyle to support your needs so that you can work toward accomplishment in all those other areas, so that you can make sure that you are aligning your time and energy with the things that you value. These last two bits, getting out of your own way and getting everyone and everyone else out of your way is really where the real magic happens. And it's where people start kind of like finally getting to the point where you're starting to get toward realizing your full potential. It's always been there, but you have to make sure that things are aligning to support you to get there. And it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. For some people, people, it'll be relationships. For some people, it'll be career. For some people, it might be, a refocus of your spirituality, your needs in that department. So whatever that is, I help my client to work towards, or, I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm coaching you on how to navigate that and put things in alignment so that you can be successful. Okay, I'm not going to give too many more details about that final point because I'm going to expound upon that in my next episode. But for today, takeaways: first, establish that your most basic needs are being met. Second, understand what your values are and what your non-negotiables are. The third point is understand what makes you tick. What do you need to feel good about yourself? What does it mean to you to feel valued by other people or to have a sense of accomplishment? And finally, to fill your cup. Remove any barriers that are preventing you from accomplishing your goals and meeting your needs. That is it. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I hope you found it helpful. Come back for my next episode where I'm going to elaborate on that final point around removing barriers from your lifestyle to help you fulfill your needs and have a sense of accomplishment around areas of health, fitness, and one of the other domains of either career, spirituality, or your personal relationships. So I look forward to talking to you again. Take care. This has been another episode of The Lifestyle MD. Special thank you to Lou Musa for the show theme music, created with Bree Photography, and makeup by Janae for the cover photo. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you haven't already, please subscribe today and share with another woman doctor who may benefit. You may also follow me on Instagram at Angela Lifestyle MD. I am Dr. Angela. Thank you for joining me today.